Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, hello.
How are you, Pierre Philippe?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I feel privileged to be here.
Well, we feel privileged to have you. Really glad you're here.
That remains to be seen.
Well, I'll let our viewers decide for themselves then.
Yeah, okay.
So, are you ready to start?
Sure, I am.
Perfect, perfect. Welcome, 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 everybody. Thank you for being with us every week. We're happy to have you. And today we welcome Pierre Philippe Sagnier. Pierre Philippe is the founder of HIPSA Coaching, a consulting practice that is dedicated to accompanying individuals in their life transitions. He also intervenes in institutions and companies to help improve performance by a combination of team and people coaching and mentoring. In doing so, Pierre Philippe leverages his multifaceted personal, educational, and professional experiences. He is a medical doctor from Paris University who practiced clinical, maternal, and child health for 10 years. In parallel, he completed a master's degrees in epidemiology in France and in public health in the US. He then pursued his career as an international medical executive in the pharmaceutical and medical nutrition industries. Pierre Philippe, through his career, noticed for decades that personal development and team management models heavily relied on the cognitive segment of the brain function, sometimes leading to poor performance and burnouts. He also noticed that emotional intelligence and personal well-being are now increasingly recognized as key determinants of personal and team performances. And so, Pierre Philippe uses the NLP-based generative Ericksonian hypnosis model to overcome conscious and non-conscious barriers to success and unlock individuals' best resources. So Pierre Philippe, welcome to our Acosphere weekly Instagram live interviews.
My pleasure.
You are a medical doctor, an epidemiologist, and a nutritionalist. You have worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and now you coach professionals with NLP and hypnosis techniques. What is your story?
Well, my story is the one of a teenager that knew from the get-go he would become a doctor. I was born literally willing to become a doctor, which I did, as you've said, and that led me to this maternal and child health track. Can I say, doing clinical work in obstetrics, gynecology, and then pediatrics. Mm-hmm. And I did enjoy that tremendously. I was very happy to be where I wanted to be. Now, as I was moving in my clinical career, can I say, I increasingly felt the interest, to say the least, for public health, international health. So if you wish, moving from the individual to the collective aspects of health. And that led me to train, as you've mentioned, both in France and then in the States, in public health, with the aim of practicing international health, indeed. That's the time where, as life sometimes gets you an opportunity behind a problem, my academic position in France vanished while I was in the States, which is something that happens sometimes. And nearly at the same time, I got an offering from the research labs at Merck and Co in the States to join them. which was something I just couldn't say no to, particularly because I was recruited by a phenomenal person, the late Harry Guess, who was both head of a department at Merck Labs, but at the same time professor at Chapel Hill in North Carolina, and a fantastic guy. So I would say that we would share epidemiology, we would share this pediatrics and all these things. So I followed somebody I felt very comfortable to join. And that was the start of my career with Merck and Co. And then with the rest of my position in industry. So from there, getting on, I've been to 2 other companies, but very importantly for this particular talk today, went to several countries to work with, to work in, and always in international positions. So involving a number of different cultures in the game. And I did enjoy that tremendously, I must say. So I remained a scientist, a medical doctor at heart, but I also became a manager, and I could see all the joys and problems of managing teams, developing people, and so forth. And then you reveal yourself, can I say? And as a manager, the message I got consistently from my teams were, you're managing by example, and you're a great coach. So that I just couldn't help but noticing. And that led me to where I am now, by the way, but later, because in between, now 7 years ago, I joined Nestle, the big Nestle. They had created nearly a startup called Nestle Health Science, with the aim of developing the nutrition of the future, the medical nutrition of the future.
Right.
And so they imported some senior guys like myself to help them understand what this was about and how to move forward. Very, very fascinating and exciting time for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and I joined and I quickly became chief medical officer of that organization with tremendous interest and excitation to be there, and both on the, let's say, managerial aspect, on the strategic aspect, and indeed on the scientific one. So everything I would love to. Now, interestingly, after a few years in the role, my body started to send me signals that maybe I was going above and beyond my capacities. And it took me a bit of a while to accept that. And that has been fundamentally the moment, another turning point in my life, where I realized that this was the time I knew would come, where I would quit industry and come back to some more personal way to help people out. And it was obvious when I looked at my background that what would conciliate all these things is to become a coach. In between, I had, for reasons too long to explain here, discovered hypnosis as a very powerful tool to, let's say, unleash the inner resources that are unconscious in most cases. I got trained in that. My training confirmed that this was really a very good tool, highly complementary to a coaching or to accompanying people. And so that's where I'm now. It's about, at the individual level, it's about helping people who are in transitions, be it a voluntary transition in life or an involuntary transition, as sometimes life gets you into. And because of all that background, my experience, I thought that coaching, getting an opening onto teams and an industry, which I know, I think, quite very well, would be as well thinkable and conceivable. And the more I'm going and the more I'm encouraged by my peers to do that. So that's where I am. That's the story. Wow. And in essence, after so many years, I am now here where I knew very early where I would be at this point.
What a journey, Pierre Philippe. What
Yeah,
a journey.
It is a journey. Mm-hmm.
Amazing, amazing journey. So you have lived and worked in France, in the US,
Yes.
in
Yes.
Germany, in the UK, in Switzerland.
Yes.
You have quite an international and multicultural background. How have those experiences shaped you? And what lessons have you learned?
Well, I'll say first, it was fantastic. I feel really privileged to have had that chance. To me, dealing with the different cultures, dealing with the difference in general, would be something I enjoy tremendously and I'm keeping enjoying. So it's been extraordinarily enriching on a host of different points. Personally, culturally, intellectually, whatever, professionally, and for my family as well. It's been a remarkable experience. So we've been very happy expatriates for many, many years. And so it's nearly all positive. But indeed, as an expat, you always have to adapt, to understand, sometimes to survive to situations. But I do not regret it one minute. It's been fantastic.
Are there any anecdotes related to the challenges and opportunities you faced in your life, in your activities that you could share with us?
Yeah. Few, I don't know if they're relevant, but my first one is with my boss, the only one I will name, the late Harry Guess, who became my friend, indeed my dear friend. In the first year of our working together, I was a very good boy. I would come to him for our bi-monthly meetings with my list of problems to solve, right? So that I would not lose too much of his precious time. And we would dive into it. And the man, being very savvy as well himself on different cultures, would be very, very nice and would jump into my problem list as I would wish. Up to a day where he was under particular pressure. I knew that, not because of me, fortunately, but he was under pressure. And on that particular day, I decided I would play differently to give him a bit of relief. So I started off the conversation by saying, you know, Harry, today, I want to tell you everything that goes well today here. And I have a host of good news for you. And the teleconference, because that was a teleconference, that one, went fantastically well. And I reacted and I reflected on that after the fact, realizing that this man, a US guy having a tremendous international experience, knew how to manage my cultural difference. But that what it was to talk to his heart and not to his brain. Starting off by saying to an American, you know what? I have a bunch of good news for you. Made him feeling at home, literally. And I never forgot that, because from that day onwards, our relationship moved from being a highly professional, very nice relationship to one that became a deep friendship. And that I never forgot. Yeah. Because it's about reaching somebody to a very different level. And basically telling him, I know where you're coming from and I'm reaching out to you, you don't need to reach out to me. And all of a sudden you've got this. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, those are the subtleties of, you know, having a multicultural background is understanding other people's cultures and knowing how to touch them and how to speak to them in their own language, actually. And by language, I'm not just thinking about the language.
I had another experience when I moved to Germany, which was a very alien country to me, because coming from France and the US, I mean, this was quite a jump. There is something extremely frustrating at the get-go in the first month, which was the length of the decision-making process.
Right.
And I felt like I'll never survive here. Why is it so long to make a decision? Only to realize step by step that the lengthy decision process was one of getting everybody on board, or at least getting a critical mass of people on board with you on the project. Where the French would say, I'm telling you, this is where we should go. Where the US would say, I'm proving you with facts that this is where we should go. They would get the bits and pieces together, and it would take the time necessary, which would be very, very stressful for somebody like myself at the get-go. Now, interestingly, once the critical mass was reached, both objectively and subjectively, there was something like, okay, we are ready to move. And all of a sudden they would move. And the time you would have lost in preparation would be gained by a big factor in the execution phase, because everybody would be putting in the same direction, feeling like we're on the same boat.
Exactly.
And and that's really something I've learned from the German culture. And if you look at the way they are dealing now with the COVID, for example, that's the same pattern.
Yeah.
They are going to be very efficient because they take the time to put this together and move. Very different from the UK. In the UK, what I learned there is body language. I learned to master my body language as a French and to turn this to be an advantage, in fact, because as a French in the UK, you're expected to shrug.
Yes.
You're going to be shrugging your shoulders, every time you are a bit nervous. If you are frustrated and you manage to keep your upper lip stiff and get a real British body language, this is a very powerful tool. Because all of a sudden they don't feel like they don't know what to do.
Because they can't read you anymore.
That sort of things. There are you could say these are jokes, these are details, and it is true, those are details. But there is an underlying, much deeper, let's say, message to this. It says, okay, I acknowledge who you are. I acknowledge that shrugging my shoulders is irritating you. And if I keep still, I'm coming to your territory, not pretending that necessarily you're going to be coming to mine.
Mm.
And this is, one can say this is a cross-cultural consideration, but in fact it's more than that. I think it's more than that. You're talking about public speaking and many things. It's all about, how can you reach people where they are?
Yes.
Not necessarily where you are.
So it's more about others, going to the others rather than wanting them to come to you.
It doesn't mean that I'm going to be agreeing with the others, that I'm going to be, obeying to the others or whatever, being subdued to, no. But it's about, okay, making a move that is going to be telling them, okay, I know who you are, or at least I know part of who you are, and I'm reaching you to that deep emotional level, which is not the intelligence of the heart. It can be very quick. The French, for example, are notoriously known to be awful people, particularly in Paris, with people who are not addressing them in French, which is true by some aspects. But if you know one word in French, which is bonjour, how to say hello, you say bonjour in French, and then you say whatever you want in whatever language will help you. That's the same mechanism at stake. You reach them, and then the connection is there, and then you have an avenue. That's what in cross-culture is about. But it's not the global village, can I say as well? Yeah. I don't believe in the global village. We are a small planet now, a smaller and smaller planet, that's true, and many things go with that. But the global village as a global cultural village with oneself, no, and diversity is a fantastic asset. It's a big pain, but it's a fantastic asset as well. So it's good. It's not bad.
Wow, really interesting. Really, really interesting and a lot of insight here. Pierre Philippe, today, as a coach, you focus more on, helping people grow. How did you make the decision to shift the focus in your professional life?
You mean the last one?
Yes.
The last one? Oh, the last one was an obvious one. The last one was an obvious one. I knew I wanted to commit myself to this international career. It was very exciting, very rewarding. But I also knew that at some point I would land back to something more personal. And it was not a matter of, am I going to be doing it? It was much more a question of how and where am I going to be doing that? And probably more importantly, how am I going to be doing that? And one thing that helped me tremendously when, as I've said, my body sent me the message that, time to shift to something else, I was very open with a selected circle of people around myself. The circle was small because when you're in a top executive position, you're not allowed to share with many people, but have a very small network of people whom I spoke to about, and sharing basically what I had done with my various experiences. And it became clear that coaching was spotting, blinking on the screen every time I was talking to everybody. And the personal aspects of coming back to help people and not only teams came from me. I wanted to come back to some form of direct link to the patients, or to the ones in transitions, not necessarily patients. So it was not a very complex process. It was more a question of letting things that were in me since so many years come to the surface and be there.
And by the ones in transition, you mean people changing their jobs or changing their lifestyles, or going through big changes?
I see here in my practice now here, I see people with health problems. I see people in transition and stress because of whatever type the job, so that's clear. I see a host of various conditions, and I'm not acting as a medic, can I say? It's tremendously helpful to have that background because I know what my limits are, but I'm not practicing medicine. It's not another way to practice medicine. I'm really, the best term I can say is accompanying people.
Okay.
And I've seen that throughout my career. It turns out that my career industry got me in very deep and close contact to healthcare practitioners, doctors, nurses in hospitals and so. And I took great care to study the patient's journeys, both in hospital, in ambulatory care and so forth. And it became clear more and more that people in the healthcare system, for example, with health problems, tend to be lost in between various sectors, various departments, various people, and having the ability to rely on somebody to help with some continuity and put things in a different perspective is very helpful. So I'm going beyond that, but at least it's part of what I'm doing with people, helping them out, dealing with their emotions, dealing with, what comes with bad news sometimes. But also I have a bunch of young people, very young people, talented, who don't know how to move. And interestingly, in this world, who lack confidence in themselves. Who are sometimes incredibly brilliant and trained and do not accept it, do not realize it, and are not confident enough. So, getting a sort of mentoring type of exercise is very useful.
Wow.
And at team levels, it's a different question. It's about, what can derail a team, a group, whatever the group is. And we know that there are non-rational, let's say, aspects, emotional aspects to behavior that can very deeply derail an entire team.
Yes.
How do you deal with toxic people? And there are toxic people in companies. We all know that. And we have all dealt with that. How do you deal with that? How do you help people with their own problems? How do you... I was reading in preparation to this, I was reading, interestingly, this afternoon, a paper saying, you know, enough is enough with emotional intelligence. We need to come back to the left brain and rational, because this is how performance is performed. And I agree with that. Yes, indeed, it's a balancing act. Yeah? It's not about being crazy about only the emotional aspect of things, the right brain, as I would call it. But it's a question of balancing things out.
Yeah.
And when you have, let's say, put the first layer of a healthy emotional relationship between people, helping them with themselves first, sometimes, you lay the foundation for a much more productive and enriching work together.
Absolutely. You know, this resonates a lot with what we do. So
sure.
I'm listening very.
I am not original on this. I am just one amongst many who have understood that and are trying to, let's say, implement those concepts in a reasonable, realistic way, particularly in companies, because you need to,
yes.
you need to go step by step and be reasonable in what you're going to be offering
Absolutely.
people. Sometimes it's only, offering personal coaching to team members without pretending to do things with the team itself. Sometimes it's a bit different. But
absolutely.
Small steps.
Yeah, but the need is huge out there.
Yes.
But let's move on with the interview. What makes you an international public speaker, and where do you get the confidence to stand there and speak? And why do people listen to you?
Well, I'll say something very simple about it. I've always been very happy to share. And it's interesting. Well, yeah, I'm going to be sharing that. It's interesting. When I joined industry, one of my first projects was to design a particular study and implement it. For whatever reason, that one didn't fly.
Right.
And within 2 months, somebody else close to me was submitting the very same project under his name. That one got accepted.
Right.
And you feel like, okay, I've been 3 months in this position. Is it really bad? And I made a very fundamental decision for myself, which is to say, whatever happens, I will share.
Mm-hmm.
Not blindly, not like an idiot, but I will share. Because the benefit of sharing is so much bigger than the disadvantages. I'm ready to that sort of situations that are very unfair and very unlikely, mm-hmm. But the benefit of it is so high. Yes. So it's always been about sharing openly, and that has led me. It's been almost like a philosophy, and sharing is very close to teaching.
Yes. And
so I've done a lot of teaching in my career. I had kept a sort of educational side for many years, which I liked very much. So public speaking was to me not a real problem because of that training I had for many years. Share and train.
Great. So to our audience, we're going to go slightly over the time, but I still have questions for Pierre Philippe, and I really want to hear what he has to tell us today. So stay with us. We are still going strong. Pierre Philippe, what advice would you like to give our audience on health, living and working abroad, and on public speaking?
Well, on health, I have nothing special to say apart from the word balance. the work-life balance, which I have phenomenally ignored for nearly 3 decades, and that led me to what I explained. So I'm not the one to say people what they should do, because I did exactly what you should not do in terms of health. In terms of public speaking, that's a different story. My experience of public speaking is that, number one, you need to be very clear ahead of your speech on the top 2, maximum 3 ideas you want to convey. And this is true for a 10-minute talk, a 30-minute talk, or a 3-hour talk. You still have the chance for 2 or 3 key ideas to think through. That's my take. And the earlier you start to think about those ideas, the better, because even though you may not officially, explicitly refer to them, they will show up in what you're going to be saying and showing, particularly in your preparation. Because you've got to be prepared for public speaking. You don't improvise public speaking if you want to be really powerful. At least that's my experience. So really focusing on 2, 3 key things is going to be helping tremendously. The second point is, I would call, engage, meaning when you get there to the podium or wherever you are, the first 15 seconds are of tremendous importance. And in my experience, by choice, nearly every time, the first 15 seconds are silent. It's about body language. It's about eye contact.
Yes.
It's about being there, centered, being really there with them, watching them, contacting, smiling. You know, we're all interconnected. So this is about the vibes you're generating. And if you generate those vibes of quietness, confidence, calm, you're going to be getting the level in your audience down to opening their ears, opening the heart and the brain. Phenomenal, phenomenally potent, at least in my experience. Because people do not expect that. They expect you to go to your notes and read feverishly.
Exactly.
The second point is acknowledge people. Not meaning every day, but you need to know who your audience is roughly. If it's 300 people or 3,000, it's a different story than if it's 30 or 10. But you need to reach out to them. Same thing we discussed already. Send them a message that you know who they are, or at least that you share something with them. Engage. Engage with them. We are part of the same boat. And last but not least, you've got to be truthful.
Yes.
Not
authenticity.
You can be tricky. It's fine to be tricky. It's fine, indeed. But you've got to be truthful in the sense of, particularly if you have a pain factor somewhere, please share. Please share. Because if you start to be able to share something that didn't went well for you, you're reaching out to people very potently. Very, very fun. And they'll follow you. The next time there is a crisis and you're their boss, they'll follow you. They know what you've been through. They'll go for you.
Wow.
So that's pretty much what I would say. There are many different things, but these are my personal, let's say, tricks.
Such insightful advice, very deep, very important advice here on public speaking. Thank you so much for that, Pierre Philippe. Are there any final thoughts or messages you would like to share with us?
Well, yes. I may benefit from this opportunity to send a very simple message. We know now that from quantum mechanics that we not have 4 dimensions in this world, but probably 5 or 6, if not 7. Meaning we are all connected one way or another one, like it or not. And in my experience, the most powerful change factor in any community is to start by changing yourself.
Yes.
And that's the most powerful change factor. And I've experienced that many, many, many times. And it shows either obviously or under the surface, but it is very important. Now, so I'll leave you with one song from Leonard Cohen, the phenomenal Canadian singer. And Cohen had written this beautiful song called Anthem. And in this very shaky time we are in these days, not only in industry or whatever, but in what's going on, tensions everywhere, diseases, and you name all the sources of stress and problems on this globe. Is written something that comes to me frequently. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the lights get in. So wow. I would leave to everybody to have a look at their cracks. A gentle look, not a severe one, but a gentle one. That's where light gets in.
Wow. Wow. That is just so powerful.
It is. That's Leonard Cohen.
It's not me. Cracks, because that's where the light comes through. Absolutely amazing, Pierre Philippe. I think our audience here will agree with me. This has been so insightful, so powerful and deep. Thank you really very, very much. From the bottom of my heart, from our heart here from Acosphere, and I guess from everybody who's been listening, I see hearts popping from everywhere. This has been awesome. Before we part, allow me to announce our next guest speaker. Next week, Thursday, same place, same time, we will be welcoming Sylvain Sancalé. He is from Senegal. He is a lawyer, an art critic, an art collector. That is going to be yet another absolutely fantastic talk. We hold our promise every Thursday to bring you a wonderful speaker. And you will agree with me that today was an absolute awesome speaker. Pierre Philippe, thank you a million times.
Thank you to you
There's
all.
So much more to say, but I think you have given us the essence of it, and we wish you well with IPSA coaching, sorry, and hope to see you again very soon.
Oh yes, be sure.
Take care, and thank you to everyone who was with us today. Stay safe, stay blessed, and we'll see you next Thursday, 4:30 GMT. Take care, Pierre Philippe. Merci encore. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.